Hey Stampin' friends! Today we're going to use some Stampin' blends and do some fun coloring. And our stamps that we're featuring is the brand new Charming Day from the online exclusives. Have you checked out our online store? Oh my goodness! You think there's a lot in the catalog? Boy, oh boy, there is a lot in our online store. That is the way that we can keep it fresh with new fun products coming in all the time to just get our creative juices going. So let's get started with today's project. Okay, so here is this beautiful Charming Day stamp set and dies. And we're even going to feature today the Glass and Gardens embossing folder. So as we get started with today's card, I just want to remind you that you can get on, if you're a part of my Buzz Bulletin, you can get this free printable PDF tutorial with all your supply list, or your wish list like I like to call it, and the stamp set that I feature, today's card, and the step-by-step instructions and measurements, so you don't need to write anything down. And if you're not already subscribed to my free email, weekly email, you can click on my website at stampinqueenbee.com and you can subscribe there. There's a pop-up that will say, would you like to subscribe to my free Buzz Bulletin? You can put your email in there, and I send my email list the tutorial every single week from my free class. I also share with you some of my other product-based classes that I do, our fun clubs, any specials that are going on, all kinds of fun. You don't want to miss that. Okay, and all of my past tutorials are on my blog as well. So let's get started. Let me show you what we're going to be using. So I already mentioned the Glass and Gardens embossing folders that we're going to be using. So you can see one of them, this is the one we're going to use today, is the Garden. Isn't that beautiful? And then our glass, it really does look like glass, right? When you emboss those. So I love these embossing folders. You get both of them in the set, and these are nice embossing folders because you can use them in our Stampin' Cut and Emboss Big Boss, which is my favorite, but you can also use these in our mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So it is nice that those can go through and you can use them in both of our machines. And then the stamp set and dies we're going to feature are Charming Day. So it's this beautiful floral images. I love the script and the text. Happy birthday is what we're going to use today. And we're actually going to use all three of the images that are included. And then here are the dies that coordinate with those. So these three cut out all of the images in the stamp set. And then all these dies, these standalone dies we'll call them, are extras. And so they just complement the stamped images that you'll use. So we will use both of those today. Let me show you our card. So it is a happy birthday card. I like to call this a clean and simple because we're using white on white and it's not real busy, right? So just a nice, simple happy birthday greeting. We're going to spend most of our time showing you coloring with some Stampin' blends. A few of you have requested how to use those, and so I thought this set would be so perfect for that. And then we've got our inside Stampin' Blends colored image as well. So let's get started. We're going to bring in our parts and pieces here, and we'll start putting a couple of them together before we get coloring. So we're using thick basic white card base. I've just cut this 8.5 by 11 sheet in half, and we're just going to go ahead and I already scored it, folded it, and all of that. Then we have our two layers, so we're going to use one of these layers inside and one of these layers on the outside, and we're just going to adhere those with some liquid adhesive. So we've got that white on white layer, and it just gives a clean and simple look, right? Give it a little back rub there. And then we're going to do the same thing with our basic white inside layer. And we're just going to adhere this one right inside. Simple so far, right? And I know some of you are asking, why am I putting white on white? But I really do think that it adds just that extra weight in their hand, which makes your card just feel that much more special and important. But it also gives, you can see the border, and so it just, you know, really gives that quality stationery, quality handmade card look and feel to it. All right, and then we talked about that embossing folder. So I took our strip that we're gonna use with basic white. I ran it through our Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. Just put it right there in the middle, ran it through, and look at the beautiful impression that we get with that. And if I bring in this stamp set, I just think they're not meant to go together, but I think they coordinate so well with the flowers images in the stamp set and the ones that are imprinted with our embossing folder. So with this layer, we're just going to also add some adhesive. And I'm just going to center this on the left side of my card front here. And we're just going to adhere that down. And when I say center it, I'm just centering it top and bottom with my layer and giving the same amount of border on the side. So isn't that just beautiful? I mean, you could almost just leave it just like so and it would be perfect, right? So now we're gonna set this aside because we're gonna spend our time today mostly doing some Stampin' Blends coloring. So let me bring in my Stampin' Blends that we will be using today. So you can see all those beautiful colors, right? And to save us just a tad bit of time, I did some stamping and die cutting ahead of time. So we have our big floral image that I stamped using our Memento Black ink pad. So we've got that. We've got our smaller floral image, same. I just stamped it on basic white using our Memento. And then we have our leaf image, and we have actually two of those. So two of those leaf images stamped using Memento Black, and then I used my dies, which are these three here, and I just die cut those out for us. So just to save us a tiny bit of time on our video today. So we are going to focus really on coloring these images because that's where I get some questions on how to use those. But what I love about these is there is no right or wrong. There is no, you know, hard rule as to how to use them. You'll hear a lot of different demonstrators say to color with dark first and then light, and then you'll hear just as many demonstrators say to color light and then dark, and you really could spend hours and hours coloring. However, what I love the most about our Stampin' Blends is that you don't need to. I kind of think the Stampin' Blends, they're alcohol markers. I think because of that and because of the way that they're meant to work, they do a lot of the work for us. So I am going to start here with some Old Olive, and there's a light Old Olive and a dark Old Olive in the set. So they come in a 2-pack by color, but you get the light and the dark versions of both. So I'm going to start with the light Old Olive, and I'm going to actually use this brush tip end. There's a brush tip and a bullet end, and so we're going to use the brush tip first, and I'm just going to do a light kind of circular fill-in of all of my leaves. And so let me zoom in here so you can really see as I color these. Okay, that's good and close, right? All right, so you can see I'm just kind of using the side here, and I'm leaving a bit of white space kind of towards the end of the images. So I'm just kind of going almost in the middle of these leaves with my blend. And then these ones are a little bit bigger, so they're a little bit easier, right? So the same thing, just kind of using the side there in a circular motion, just kind of laying down some color. And the reason there's two reasons why I'm not going all the way to the ends here. You see that white space? So the two reasons, one, as these dry, you put the ink down and as they dry, it kind of expands. They're meant to kind of blend outwards. And so I don't want to get too close to that line because as they blend outwards, I don't want it to go over my line, right? The other reason is a little bit of white space looks good, right? Sometimes it gives a little bit of highlight, a little bit of shadow, and that looks great. So now we'll go to our bigger image here, and you can see I'm just loosely adding color. That's what I love about these. You don't have to be perfect. They really make you look like an artist, even if we're not, right? Even if we're not professionals. People will think we are. So I'm just adding that in. See that white space? See how it's kind of blending out as the color is drying? One more here, I think. Did we get them all? Yes. Okay, so that is all of our kind of first layer of leaves. And then I'm going to go in with the dark old olive. This time I'm going to use that bullet tip end. So we're just going to kind of go over those little highlights, the little lines that Stampin' Up's artists have already put in there for us. So I'm just adding kind of a little bit of this darker old olive right over top. So nothing fancy here, right? Just a little bit of color. There we go. All right, next I'm going to move on to Mossy Meadow. And with Mossy Meadow, I'm just going to use the light version of Mossy Meadow, and I'm going to use that brush tip end. And I'm just going to add a little bit of that Mossy Meadow kind of coming out from those stems towards the base of those leaves. So we're just adding a little bit of depth here with this kind of third color. And we'll just do the same thing right on these. And you can see how fast this goes, but how good it's starting to look as we add a little bit more here. You'll see how they really start to come to life. So just a little bit right along the base of each of those. You can always add more later, but it's not as easy always to take it away, right? Okay, so we've just kind of added a little bit of depth there. And you can still see the lines that we've colored. So what I like to do is go back with my lightest color. So this is that old olive light. I'm going to take that brush end and I'm just going to kind of go over top the whole thing. And what I think this does is it kind of mushes and blends those together. So I'm just kind of going over the whole thing. And you'll see those lines start to soften, and you'll see those colors kind of come together, but you really can see that like dimension that is built into that as you've done that. Because see here, you can see that they look like real choppy with the three colors, but here they just kind of smooth it out, right? All right, so then let's go in and do our bigger leaves here. And then we will start on our 2 flowers there. Well, 3, 2.5 of one. Okay, almost there. And you can always go back and add a little more if you missed anything. But see how beautiful those start to look as it dries and as they kind of blend out, as you kind of build those colors. So for our flowers, we're going to use 3 colors. We're going to use Bubble Bath, our new Strawberry Slush, and a tiny bit of Melon Mambo. So let's start with our Bubble Bath. I'm starting with the light Bubble Bath. We'll start here with our smaller flower image. And I'm just adding kind of like I did with that first color, just a first light layer, real loose, kind of all over, leaving a bit of white space towards the edges. And just kind of in that circular motion. So see, it looks pretty just like that, right? Then I'm going to go in with a little light strawberry slush. And this time, I'm going to go in the middle. That was easy, right? We'll do the middles here. And then I'm going to also go with that light, but with the bullet tip end. And I'm just going to add a little along kind of those markings that Stampin' Up! Has put on there. So you can do a little bit on the outside, a few of those, a couple here, a couple there, and then the same thing. Now remember, just like our leaves, might not look so good at first because you'll see those lines, but as it dries and as we blend this, it becomes really seamless. And that's why I think these really make us look like artists, because you don't have to be super exact. You'll see I'm just kind of loosely going over this. Maybe one right over here. Okay, so now we've got that. I'm gonna take my dark melon mambo, and I'm gonna use that bullet end. And in those centers of the flowers, I'm just gonna kind of do some dots, just to give kind of some low lights right in the center there and to kind of darken that up. So I'm not really trying to fill it in, I'm just trying to add a little bit of low lights there. All right, and now I'm gonna go in with our dark bubble bath. I'm gonna use that brush end, and I'm just gonna go ahead and right around the center here, I'm just going to add a little bit of that dark and kind of blend that right around that center. So I kind of want it to go dark all the way out to light. Okay? And then for our final step here, to kind of blend all this together, I'm going to go back in with my light bubble bath, again with that brush end, and we're going to go over the whole thing. So I'm just softening those strawberry lines that we did. And again over here, just kind of softening those lines, blending all of that kind of together. Now let that sit for a second, and then we'll do one final little step to our flowers as this dries. So right now they're really wet because I've added a lot of color to that, so we're just going to kind of take a pause and we're going to stamp our sentiment. So I'm just going to move this up, and I've got my sentiment strip here, and I have some Mossy Meadow. So I've got some Mossy Meadow ink here. Let me grab my block here. Sometimes I like to show you this because we have some new stampers on here, and it's good to see how we add our stamps to the blocks sometimes, right? So I just like to set it on the table, take my empty block, stick it to there, and it picks it right up and easy to put that on. So I'm just gonna ink this up. We've got our ink on there. We'll just put that right on our sentiment strip here. Hold that down for a second, 2 or 3, and there we have our sentiment. Happy birthday. Okay, close up our ink pad there. I'm actually gonna bring back in our card. There we go. And so our sentiment is going to go just right over the top of our embossed layer here, and we're just going to line it up with this edge of our first layer. So I'm going to grab my adhesive. Just go ahead and put a little bit of that, our liquid glue, and we'll go ahead and set that right towards the top there. Since it's on that embossed layer, I want to make sure that that gets right stuck down real good, right? Okay, so let's bring back in our flower images while that sets up. And I'm going to go back in with my dark, now that it's dried a bit, I'm going to go back in with my dark bubble bath. And I'm just going to add one more kind of layer, not all the way out, but just kind of right past the middle of my flowers here. And see, because we waited, now it's ready to blend up again. Sometimes it just needs a little bit of that extra dry time, right? And so then there you have it. That is our Stampin' Blends coloring, loose coloring to make it super easy peasy, right? Turns us into artists, that is for sure. Okay, now let's put our card together here. So we're gonna add some liquid glue to our kind of leaf sprigs here. And I'm just gonna start one kind of in the center here. There we go. And then I'm gonna layer on the second one. Didn't those leaves just kind of come to life? And I'm just lining this, this leaf here up with the bottom of that stem on that first one. There we go. So we've got those. Beautiful. And then our small flower, we're actually going to put this one on the inside of our card just to finish that off. So we'll go ahead and add that right there. And then with our large flower here, we're going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals with this guy. And we'll just go ahead and put a few of those on there so that we can secure this so it's not floppy. One more. I love our dimensionals. They're just some foam adhesive hexagons that kind of give your card a little bit of lift and pop. There we go. All right, now this one, we're just going to kind of angle it a little bit so that it's over our emboss layer. So our leaves are kind of peeking out from that. And we'll just kind of set that right on top. Isn't that beautiful? All right, well now we gotta finish with some bling. And so we have these gorgeous new strawberry slush and Pretty in Pink gems. And there are the strawberry slush, the Pretty in Pink, and then some gold kind of iridescent clear ones. And they go with so many things. And they really have their, let me get close. Look at that sparkle and shine in there. Who doesn't love that? So I'm just gonna grab my take your pick tool here. And I use the lighter ones on this just to kind of bring out, but you could use either one. So I use the light ones here. Let's use the dark ones. And we're just gonna put one down here, our bigger gem. We will put a smaller gem kind of next to it, and then another smaller gem on the right. So what do you think? Do you love the darker gems or the lighter gems? They both go, right? Even the gold would look super pretty on there. All right, so last but not least, I wanted to show you our freebie from me for this week. So you know, every single week from the time our video launches on Thursday to the following Wednesday at midnight, when you place your order in my online store for $50 or more, you get a freebie from me. So you get a printed copy of the tutorial for the week. Goes with our card, right? Plus you get a freebie kit from me that's going to come with all of these parts and pieces, all the layers, the bases, the envelopes, all the pre-cut pieces for you to make 3 of these cards. So you get your tutorial, you get your freebie packet from me. Of course, you get a little thank you. And usually I throw in one of these cards as an example for you. So if you want this kit, you'll want to get your order in by next Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. so that you can get this freebie from me. Next week, starting Thursday, we'll start our next card kit. So a different card kit every week that you can get as a freebie from me, just as a thank you for your support in ordering from my online store. So thank you so much. Also, if you're wanting to take any classes with me, I do offer class packets every month. Plus, I offer our card club, which is so fun. Our club members are loving it. And all the details for either of those can be found on my blog at stampinqueenbee.com. There's a drop-down menu for classes, and you can see all of the current class offerings. So let me flip this back around so I can say thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching and liking, subscribing, and sharing with your friends. I absolutely appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for all that you do, all that you share with me. You all are such an inspiration. So thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next week.